Just these little white papers? Yeah. Okay, sorry. Oh, I see.
Thank you for your patience waiting for us to reconvene. Officially, the time is 7:17. We do have some things to report out for closed session. Let me find the text. The board approved by a unanimous vote of 5-0 to approve the release of one permanent classified employee. And the board approved unanimously 5-0 to non-reelect a probation 1 certificated employee. We do have some deletions or corrections to the agenda. Dr. Gibson?
We do. So there's one correction to item 14.1 that was updated. Mrs. Pichette, do you want to just explain what that correction was?
Sure. Item 14.1 is just, it states that Kelly Hunkins and Matt Medlin will be co-principals representing Carrick, and it's actually just Matt Medlin that will be the representative because Kelly Hunkins is now the principal of Argonaut High School.
Okay, thank you. Two other corrections. A correction in the personnel recommendations has been made to change the assistant superintendent of human resources position to an interim assistant superintendent of human resources while we post and go through the hiring process. And then item 14.6 is being pulled.
Thank you, Dr. Gibson. If we could all please rise and remove our covers for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have several presentations and some recognitions tonight. First, we have from the Transportation Department, Mr. Bracco.
Good evening. It's quite an honor and a humble experience to be with you all tonight. I have 4 transportation drivers that worked tirelessly this summer, and I really want to be able to share their stories tonight. But before I do that, I have some pictures I'm going to share with you so you can get some content to what I'm going to share with you. So if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Whitaker, I believe back in April, you sent an email to Sean.
Yes.
Yes, and that email came to my attention, and so as I'm meeting with my team leading up to the summer break, I was discussing, what summer projects we have, and, we have the standard projects, and then we have our special projects. Well, this summer, we took on body repair as a special project. So you will see in the photos that I've provided you, you'll see the after of what C701 looks like. I hope you can see the hard work that was dedicated to it. And not only did we work on C701, but we worked on other vehicles as well. So to give you an idea, most drivers work their standard 180 days and then take the summer off. Well, I have 4 employees that I am so proud to present to you tonight. Elias Casares, he worked tirelessly this summer. He repaired 19 seats.
Come on up, Elias, so we can all look at you.
He, as I was saying, he repaired school bus seats that were cut up by our students, and he did it by himself. And Elias, I want to thank you for your dedication to repairing our school buses, make sure that they're safe this summer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Leanne Kelly, she worked tirelessly where she is the one that said, Paul, you know what, I think I'd do some body work. And she is the person behind all the body work that was done. Not all of it, because Kevin Viella, come on up, Kevin. Between Kevin and Leanne, they are the ones that came to me and said, Paul, we got some ideas how we can do this. And knowing how expensive it is to take a vehicle to a body shop and have them do it, I know that we saved thousands of dollars to the district by having these two work tirelessly through the summer and making these repairs happen. So, Kevin, congratulations, thank you.
Thank you.
And Leanne, thank you. And last but not least, we have Kim Everly. She, what she did this summer, she took all our vans and cleaned them out from the driver's area to the back, and also the exterior of the vans. So they were ready for August 16th start of school. So Kim, thank you. You know, it's really nice to be able to showcase our drivers, not from what they do behind the wheel, but what they do for our department. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you'll all please, yes, do that first. If all of you, including Paul, if you'll go back with Haley, please, we'd like to get a photo. Thank you. And you're welcome, obviously, to stick around. And then why don't we flip-flop number 2 and 3? While Haley's doing her photo out back there for them, why don't we go to the summer maintenance projects with Mr. Cruz? You okay with that?
Yes, thank you. So Joe Cruz, our maintenance director, is here tonight. I think, Julia, you asked last board meeting what projects we had completed for the summer, and I said we have a week left. Give us one more week, and then we can wrap up all of our summer projects. So Joe put together a presentation. It's attached in your board packet tonight, and I'm going to turn the time over to him to kind of walk you through what our maintenance department did this summer. I want to say, compared to previous summers, this was one of the heaviest lifts we've ever asked of our maintenance department over a 9-week summer. I mean, what we asked them to do was, it was heavy. There was a lot that needed to get done, and so I'll let Joe walk you through that.
Perfect. Good evening, board members, Superintendent Gibson, cabinet members. Welcome to 23-24 school year, if you can believe that already. I'm going to go ahead and go through our slide tonight. I think you all have it in front of you there. And what we did is we developed a list before summer, and we decided what could the maintenance department do and what could the contractors do, because we needed both of them to complete everything that we had scheduled. So I'll show you a few slides of the plans that we had before summer, and then we'll get into some photos. So I'm on page 3. You can see that's our list. You can't go into summer and try to get something accomplished. You don't have some sort of guide to follow. So I met weekly with the department to get updates on where they are at on the projects and how things were progressing, things that we might have to rearrange and shift to make sure that we could complete the list and get everything done. So page 3 is the first part of the list, and then page 4 was the last part of the list. And then we had the prerogative to add or delete. I'll give you an example. I own junior high. There was a gas valve that started leaking. So we knew we couldn't start school with that gas valve leaking. So we had to add that to our list to make sure that we got that taken care of before school. So now I'm into pictures on slide 5, Amador High School. That was the tennis court that we got resurfaced this year. We had the crew take the fencing down so that they could get the equipment in and do the tennis court. The poles actually had to be raised 4 inches because they are out of compliance. So because we added 2 inches of asphalt, they kind of shortened the poles. So they came in and fixed the poles. There was also no anchors in the middle of the net, so the contractor put anchors in to solidify the nets a little more. And then that was actually completed last Friday. So, you know, I have to turn the presentation in so we can get ready for the board on Thursday, but people were still working since last Thursday, and Friday the contractor was out, and the tennis courts are on, the surface is on, everything's painted. The nets have been delivered, so it's just a matter of our maintenance crew having time to go in and put the fence back up. So, and we'll be on that within the next few weeks. Okay, we're at Argonaut High School. That was a portable. If you've ever walked around the district and seen these old portables, man, do they rot out. And this one was one of them that had some holes along the side, and we had to go in and rip the siding off and replace it and then prime and paint it. Jackson Junior High, we needed more staff parking up there. And Jared and I tossed our heads around, where can we possibly put parking? And then we realized, well, we have this upper field here, good idea to put one there. So the picture on the left shows after the contractor, actually my maintenance department went in and cut the curb out so we'd have access to the area. Then the contractor came in and put the gravel down on the lot. And then the picture on the right shows staff using the lot after school started. So very successful project. Ione Junior High. I'm not sure how many of the board members are familiar with Ione Junior High and the floor out there, but I have never seen a gym floor as bad as this one. And it had just been warped. Maria Elena had called me out several times, and it's like, what can we do? What can we do? Well, the picture on the right, you can see, was one solution. It's like, okay, it's really bad in this area. Let's cut it out and at least put plywood down so students won't be tripping, but it wasn't the solution. So the next slide shows the plumbing, and what we found out is that it had been leaking for a long time. And if you look at the picture on the left, you can see water seeping through the sidewalk. So we knew it was somewhere in that area, and we busted the sidewalk out, and when we did, you can see it flooded there. And just horrible. It was making its way under the slab, under the wooden floor, and the condensation was what was making that floor warp. So once we discovered, okay, this is the problem, let's fix it, the old line ran underneath the concrete walkway, which was no good because we didn't want to tear that up. So we decided we couldn't use the old line. We tried to tie into it 2 or 3 times, and it kept leaking. The pipe was 75 years old. So it's like, okay, we can't use this anymore. So the crew, you can see the picture on the right, they dug a whole new trench, and we put a whole new line going to the gymnasium, and it feeds the swimming pool too. So when we were on this project, if we were shutting water off and on, the pool was out of water too. And then page 10 shows the crew in there at the beginning of summer. They're ripping the floor out. That's about half of the floor that came out right there. So you can imagine we had filled a dumpster up, and we had to really condense the wood in that dumpster to get it out of there. Picture on the right shows the floor taken out and down to the subfloor. We removed some subfloor panels periodically along the line there because we had to get that moisture out from underneath there before we put the new floor on. So that little green machine you see in the background, that's a dehumidifier, and that helps pull the moisture out of the air. So it took about 2 weeks to get all that moisture out from underneath that slab before we even took a chance of putting new lumber down. Slide 11 shows the amount of work that it took to do this, because these boards are all tongue and groove, and even at the end, they're tongue and groove. And so we had to go in and hand chisel every one of those boards back to a point where we could get it to the tongue and try not to destroy the old floor so we could put the new flooring in. And then the picture on the right shows new boards going in. And then on slide 12, if you see the new boards in, well, we had to obviously paint the lines. We had to stain the boards to somewhat match the finish. Now, when you put finish on, it gets a little darker. So it was kind of tricky to figure out what stain. So we had to do some samples until we thought we came up with a match. And this is our in-house painter that did this in our maintenance department. And I just think he did a great job. And then the picture on the right, the floor that we repaired is at the far end of the gymnasium, and we resurfaced or refinished the whole floor. So you can just see the ceiling shining on that floor. I mean, it came out really good. I don't think this floor has been in this good a shape probably in 50 years. So,
Can I make a quick comment on this project? We went out and looked at contractors to do this work, and it was upwards of 130,000. And we did this project for about 35,000. So when we talk about, some of the things maintenance does, I mean, they did just as good of a job as we would have paid an outside contractor and saved the district $100,000. So.
yeah, I'm really proud of that job. They did a great job on it. Okay, on slide 13, Ione Elementary, that's the ELOP program. They had ordered a shed during the summer, and it came in with a floor kit on one pallet and the building on a second pallet. So the department went out there and put that together before school started so they could have a new shed. The old shed was rotted out and leaking. So ELOP out in Ione has a new shed. At Plymouth Elementary, this was another big project we did during the summer. The handicap ramp on the left was the original ramp that was there on that portable. It had about a 3 by 3 foot landing and probably a 15% slope. And you need to have a 5 by 5 foot landing coming out of a door and a 2% slope. So that was all torn out. This was a contractor that did this because we wanted to make sure we were compliant with everything. They have the 2 ramps to the 2 classrooms there. They're getting ready to form the sidewalk to get up to those ramps. And then the next slide shows where we're starting to prep for the playground area. So the sidewalk's in now. The contractor has to continue with the sidewalk to the end of that last ramp, and then he's gonna put a curb around because we're doing a pour-in-place surface for the playground, rubber when we're done, kind of like what Jackson Elementary has. And we've got playground structures going in there. So we have to retain that rubber, and I believe, I haven't talked to the contractor yet today, but they were supposed to finish that up today. So what we're waiting for next is for the equipment to come in, and we're planning on having that installed and completed in October break. And then the picture on the right shows some fencing that the department put in, and it's because we want to contain the children in that playground area. So if we didn't have that fencing, they'd be all out behind that building. So that was part of that project too that our department had done. We also did the bathroom there that I don't have any pictures of that slide, but we kind of de-gutted it and we're making it into a changing room there. So once their changing table comes in, we'll go out and put it together and they'll have a second bathroom out there. Okay, slide 16, Jackson Elementary office. Picture on the left shows the original office. Picture on the right shows how we opened up the doorway to create the 2 office spaces behind, in that room behind. Now that was a workroom and a nurse's station. And principal came to me and said she needed more office space. They had another staff member coming into the office. So we had to figure out a way to open it all up, and that's how we did it. And I think it came out really nice. The next slide shows the nurse's station. Since we took it out of the workroom, we had to move it somewhere. So that was a little closet that was off the side of the office, and the picture on the right shows it was actually 2 little offices. One was the principal's office that came out, and the other one was the office that you're seeing there on the left. And so we opened it all up, and then on slide 18, you can see the room finished and the office on the right-hand side that was finished. So that was 2 guys that got in there all during the summer and did that, while all these other projects were going on. So I just think they did an excellent job. Pioneer Elementary, snow country, metal ramps, they last about 10, 12 years and then they rust out. So those were all replaced, and our in-house painter had painted them. So the handrails aren't shown here, but he had finished it up last Friday, so all of that's completed and painted. And then in transportation, down at dispatch, bus drivers need to check their keys in and out every morning, and they really didn't have a place to do it. So dispatch kind of requested, could we put this wall up? And looking down the hallway on the picture on the left, that used to go right into their office. And now the wall stops and kind of creates a little office space for them. And on the picture on the right shows the counter where they can sign in to check their keys in and out. That little black door you kind of see open on the right, that's the key storage. So that's helped dispatch a lot to kind of expedite it, make it a little quicker in there. Okay, next slide shows some of the playground equipment that's going into the Plymouth Elementary School. So we have like a little tilt-a-maze there on the left. On the right is like 3 little trays that you can put sand, water, whatever the teachers want to put in there. There's a little sensory pole in the middle with some devices on it. Next slide down shows a sensory wall. In the photos here, I had them put like the green pour-in-place rubber, so that kind of gives you an idea of what it's going to look like under that whole area. And then the principal wanted shade for the students out there too. So that shade structure is 20 by 20. So it'll create quite a bit of shade in that playground area. So what's on the road ahead? Next slide. Finish up the playground and pour-in-place rubber out in Plymouth, and everything's ordered. We're just waiting for it to come in and get that installed in October. There's a wrought iron fence that goes up out there for the part that I don't have in a photo for the other side of the walkway that will completely enclose that area. Paint the handrails, which is completed already. Finish the shade structure, heat and curtains for Pine Grove Elementary. They have a shade structure up there, and during the winter it can get kind of cold out there and they can get really crammed inside the multipurpose room. So this project is to help get some of the students out and contain them in an area where they'll be a little more comfortable. So that's what's we're working on up there, and that will probably be done by October break. Finish the tennis court surface at Amador. When I did the slide, that wasn't done yet, but it is done now. And now we're starting to prepare for October break. So I just met with the crew today, and it's like, what can't you do when students are there that we can do during break? And so we're starting to develop our list now. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions?
Joe, I just also want to comment that the first day of school, as cabinet members were out and about at school sites, and all directors, the district office was pretty empty. Multiple people commented about how amazing our grounds looked. Probably the best. I mean, in my 3rd year of being at a school site, first day of school, I would say it's the best I've seen. So I really want to compliment your grounds crew. Everything was trimmed and green and, you know, just really clean, and it showed the pride in our campuses. So, yeah, thank you to that crew.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I just wanted to echo off what Tori said. Every time I've been at one of the schools, the maintenance crew is always working hard in doing whatever duties they have that going on that time. My wife's a teacher, so every time I'm at her classroom, the maintenance person there is always so helpful, and she's always appreciative of the hard work she does. The second thing is, I was wondering if your maintenance crew ever come across a lucky Minnesota Vikings baseball cap that I've been looking for about 2 months. If it comes across, please send it to the school board.
I will mention that in my next meeting.
Thank you. Football season's coming up, so I'll need it back.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Vikings.
You can send that in the garbage.
Yeah. I was thinking that maybe you need to pick a new team.
Oh, harsh crowd. Thank you so much for all your work this summer. It is very much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So now we're going back to the presentation 2, which is
Yes.
Haley, how do I say it?
Mayseal.
Mayseal? Ms. Mayseal.
Hello. So I think you guys all have the plan in your packets, so I'm just gonna give you a quick run over my process. I created the strategic plan to use as a reference for our communication strategies going forward. We did not have this in place when I started in this position, and most school districts do have one. Communication plans are typically 3 to 4 year plans. This one specifically is for 3 years. Usually the process is it gets adjusted every year and then rewritten every 3 years. I ran a thought exchange survey in May, and it was sent out to students, staff, and community members to gather feedback about our current approach to communication. The results of this thought exchange you can see on pages 5 through 8. And if you have that pulled up digitally, there is a link that goes directly to where you can view the full results of the survey, including every response. And using these results, as well as the objectives from our new strategic plan, I put together 3 communication goals to focus on for the next 3 years. Goal number 1 is to improve and strengthen external communication with students, families, and the community. Goal number 2 is to improve internal communication with staff. And goal number 3 is to develop a comprehensive crisis communication plan, which is in the works. Specific implementation strategies for each goal are listed in the plan as well, under each goal. I will run a community thought exchange each year to gather feedback and make adjustments to this strategic plan as needed, but this is what I've come up with so far. So, does anybody have any questions?
I just want to comment just in general about Haley's position. It was new to us a year ago and earlier this month, Jared. And so that's an ongoing, he can't blame me anymore for stealing Haley. So, but Haley has truly instrumentally changed our communication. She creates wonderful posts and documents. She helps in all kinds of ways of helping to draft some of the things that need to go out. And honestly, they just wouldn't go out otherwise because we just don't have the time. She's very dedicated and very dependable. So we're thrilled to have Haley in this position. I know at first it was a brand new job and Haley was like, what in the world am I doing? And she's just a self-starter and she's really taken it on. And suddenly she appeared on the cabinet agenda with, hey, I created this communications plan without anybody even asking her. So I just really want to commend Haley for the work that she does.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't have a question, but I did just want to say that we get a lot of comments about communication. I didn't hear this, didn't hear that. So I think that this is really great and that you're also soliciting feedback from families and such on the best ways to communicate with them. So good
Yeah,
job.
and you can see on
Yeah.
page, I think it's page 6, you can see we got a lot of responses.
A lot of responses.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. So
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
And I didn't realize that that it was part of your capacity to consider the communications that go directly to the parents from the school sites and getting some standardization in those processes. A lot of those have been kind of, at the sole direction or discretion of the school site. So I think that will be a nice improvement.
Yeah, that was a big part of some of the responses that I got in the thought exchange, so I'm trying to focus on that a little bit more this year.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maciel. Okay, our last presentation is timeline for renaming mascot and colors for Consolidated High School, and we have Dr. Gibson and Mr. Critchfield presenting.
So I'm going to kick us off. So first in the packet, you're going to see that we have a board policy that was adopted May 9th of 2018. The policy is policy number 7310, and it's labeled naming of facility. In here, it describes what we can name things, how we go about naming them, and I think one of the most important pieces in here is that in our own policy, we state that we will have a public hearing. So you'll see in the other document that that's there, but I just thought this was really relative for our own policy and what we can and can't do with our own policy with renaming. So if you look at the other document, I just want to walk us through the second edition here. So you have 8 different steps. We aren't attaching timelines to these other than this will be a 4 to 6 month full process from 1 through 8. Can you guys see that? No? Can you see? Oh, you have, okay, sorry. Sorry.
Sorry.
Just making sure you're okay.
I know you were talking to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first is using Thought Exchange as a survey tool that is created for the community to submit their proposed school names, possible mascots, and colors. The survey will be promoted throughout all of our high schools through the local radio, through Parent Square, district social media, local newspaper, and pretty much anywhere that we can possibly share it. We are also in the process of creating a community input team. Those letters will go out from me directly. We brainstorm just some individuals that we feel would be beneficial for this input team. A lot of those people participated in one way or another in the original consolidation that created Argonaut. And we really want to learn from them, from their perspective, and what hindsight is for them, so we don't make those same mistakes. And also how we can positively make this happen. In addition, we have multiple large groups, so Rotary clubs, Lion clubs. We want representation from our local tribes, city council groups, the Board of Supervisors group, like you name it. So that letter's going to come out, I'm hoping by Friday, but we'll see what the rest of the week looks like for Haley and I as we draft that letter. If not early next week, and we have that first meeting scheduled in late September. So we're excited about that. The third piece is conducting feedback loops using Thought Exchange with information provided to the community input team, the larger community, staff, and students. Then we're going to have our student leadership teams from all high schools collaborate to develop a process for narrowing the proposals to the top 3 to 5 most popular school names, mascots, and colors. We're going to have a review of the top 3 to 5 selections through Varsity Brands for any potential conflicts, including trademarking. And that is if you approve the items tonight for that contract. Item number 6 is students are going to present the top 3 to 5 selections to the board, district staff, and the community. We have a strong belief that the students really need to participate in this process, and they're very excited about that. Number 7, a final review of school names, mascots, and colors will happen. And then there'll be a final recommendation with a presentation to the board and a public hearing where the board will take final action at that particular board meeting. We're anticipating, if we had to kind of guess, we're hoping that takes place possibly around December, to the December board meeting. If not, maybe January, but I don't know. We want to go through the process. We don't know how many feedback loop processes we're going to need that happens in step 3. And we want to make sure that we do that. We're talking about 2 in the process, getting to, when we get to the 3 to 5, doing some forced rankings and some other kind of fun ways of looking at the information. But we will go through the process as we go through each step.
So you had mentioned that the board policy requires a public hearing.
Correct.
So will that be the final step is I see it.
Yeah.
Final public hearing.
Yep, number 8. Yep, correct. And we're happy to answer any questions.
Do you think that would be a special meeting?
No, it'll be at a regularly scheduled board meeting. Might be a long night.
Yeah,
It might be we don't know.
it might be, okay.
We had this conversation already, and we thought, well, we just don't know, right? We don't know what we don't know yet. It could be once we get to 3 to 5, it could be that something really floats to the top for the majority. We don't know.
I'm just floating it that I'm willing. I'm sure that we are all willing to give it the time necessary.
If it's something that we're like, yeah, this is going to be a long process at this board meeting, we'll hold a special meeting, but we will not do it quickly. We will make sure that it's broadly announced, that everyone knows that, we don't do it the very next day or whatever the case may be. We will give at least a week notice or more.
Did anybody else have any other questions about this? No? Thank you. I'm glad we put that as a presentation. I think that I've had a lot of questions on that topic, so I appreciate that you were willing to give us a nice timeline.
Yeah, and we will, I think, moving forward often at board meetings, especially during the fall. We only have one board meeting for a while. Mr. Brewer will be here as well to do some of the updates normally. He's out of town currently for medical reason for his wife. So he wanted to be here tonight, but I said, we have it covered for you. So, but you'll see a lot of him in the next few board meetings.
Thank you, Dr. Gibson and Mr. Critchfield.
Thanks, Mr. Critchfield.
So we are to item 10, which is our employee organizations, and Mrs. Jensen. Is she here? No, okay. But we do have Ms. Martz. Did you want to make comments? No? Okay, well, thank you. We always appreciate seeing our employee organizations representatives here. They're very dedicated and reliable. We are to the public comment section of our agenda today. We do have one comment card. I'm going to read the spiel. A person wishing to be heard by the board shall first be recognized by the president and shall then proceed to comment as briefly as the subject permits. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on non-agenda items. The board shall limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. With board consent, the board president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation, depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional persons speak only if they have something new to add. So we do have a speaker card. This does pertain to our consent agenda, which is our very next item. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Catherine Carlisle to please approach the podium. Thank you and welcome.
The reason why I came tonight and wanted to speak, we do have a new Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, potentially, Mr. Palazuelos. Am I saying your Palazuelos? The reason why I wanted to come and first of all, welcome. I wanted to address some concerns with, there's of course been a ton of turnover post-pandemic with our CAC. We are super active, a community advisory committee for the special needs students. We're a super active CAC, and we definitely look forward to a positive working relationship. Also, we do understand that there may have been some concerns at a previous school district, at the Sonoma Valley Unified School District, and I just wanted to sort of clear the air so that we're not confused. Have any of these been addressed by Mr. Palazuelos, or have they been addressed by our board in considering his appointment? And specifically, there have been some essentially concerns with how supportive he may have been about parental involvement, and also concerns about how supportive he may have been with some previous special needs and equity programs. Does anybody have any comment on that, or has that been addressed?
The board won't comment during your comment period, but I will ask that the board president comment when we get to consent for you.
Okay. Obviously, Mr. Palazuelos, please welcome. Obviously, I'm sure you have a side to the story too, and certainly we want to hear it. So thank you for coming and welcome. And we look forward to working with you. Thank you. As parents, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for addressing us. Public comment is an important part of the agenda. We're going to go to the consent agenda. Did anybody have questions on the consent agenda, which does include the HR? Okay, so I am going to take this time to respond to the public comment. Did you want to go, James?
I had a question in regards to the warrants.
Absolutely.
In the warrant, I'm not even where I'm supposed to be. It's not a surprise.
James, is this the one you
Oh,
emailed
go
me?
ahead.
That is correct, yeah.
James emailed me about this one, so I can help if that's okay.
Appreciate the bail.
Yeah, I got you. So it's actually on page 1. It's the second warrant listed, and it's probably a good time to give the board a quick review of these warrants. So you'll notice it says pay to the order of Amador County USD clearing account. Whenever you see that, that's actually those are credit card purchases. We're hitting more and more situations with vendors where they won't take purchase orders. And given a variety of situations when we need items, so we pay for those with the district credit card. So just like if you were to pay your own personal credit card bill on the bank statement from your bank, it's going to show the total dollar amount, which is $3,975. But that wasn't for one transaction. The rest of that section lays out each of the transactions from the credit card that totaled the $3,900. So if you want a breakdown of how that was spent, it shows you each part of that. But on the clearing account, it shows as just a $3,900 expense, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Jared.
You're welcome.
So we did have some discussion about the current personnel recommendations. We did have a change to the appointment. It is an interim appointment, and we are going to fly the position, and we will have interviews for that position. So we can't talk specifically about what we talked about, but that is the result of those concerns that were brought to several members of the board. So thank you. Are we good? Okay. Are there any other last minute questions on the?
Can I just say one thing?
Yes, please.
Luke, I will be reaching out to you in regards to that interview panel, just like I normally would. Okay.
I had one one weird warrant. It was actually at the end this time. It was a charter school property tax paid to El Dorado COE. It was $8,349.
Right. So those are students who are attending out of county that we then send the ADA to that county for their attendance.
Ah, okay.
I think it's probably one. I'd have to go back and look at the detail.
Based on that number, it's probably one.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not that we were paying property tax, we were transferring some of the property, right?
Well, so school revenue is listed as property tax.
Gotcha.
So that's what it is. It's the property tax we collected that then we sent to El Dorado COE
Okay,
for the student.
thank you for clarifying. I thought we were paying taxes on some building in El Dorado County. Okay.
No more
Not that I'm
buildings.
aware of.
No buildings. We don't need more buildings.
All right. If there are no further questions, would anybody like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve item 12, the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Crowe.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. So for the roll call vote, Mr. Crowe,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Marzano,
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker,
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Item 13, communications, there are none on the agenda. And our first discussion action item is the Capital Adult Education Regional Consortium voting name change. Mrs. Pichette.
Yes, thank you. Back in 2015, Amador County Board of Trustees approved ACUSD as a member of the Capital Adult Education Regional Consortium. And so we have, through the years, had different voting members, Butch Wagner, Kelly Hunkins, and now we have our new principal of educational options, Mr. Matt Medlin, who I might add is doing a phenomenal job. And so now it's appropriate that the board vote and approve Mr. Medlin to be a voting member representing Amador County Unified School District. And I'm happy to take questions.
Did anybody have questions about that? It's pretty straightforward. Is anybody ready to make a motion?
I will move to approve item 14.1, the CAERC voting name change.
Thank you, Mrs. Parker. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. Roll call vote, Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
I'm also a yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 14.2, Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant. Mrs. Pichette.
Thank you. On June 30th, 2022, AB 181 was approved, establishing the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant. The funds are available, and there are 5 purpose areas. 1, obtaining standards-aligned professional development and instructional materials for specified subject areas. 2, obtaining professional development and instructional materials for improving school climate. 3, developing diverse, culturally relevant, and multilingual school library book collections. 4, operational costs, including retirement and healthcare cost increases. And 5, COVID-19 related costs necessary to keep pupils and staff safe and schools open for in-person instruction. We received for ACUSD it's almost $2.4 million. And you can see we are in the expenditure plan. We have money allocated in areas 1, 2, and 4. And so I am happy to take any questions about this discretionary block grant.
What is Bridge the Gap with Katie McCleary?
That is a great question. So Katie McCleary has come and spoken to our principals. She has also done some work at Amador High School, and it's her work is surrounding bridging the gap. It's a lot of communication work. So our site leaders have tools, we like to say tools in their bucket, for communicating with families, with teachers, with colleagues. And so it's very much a culture builder and part of our strategic plan, Objective 4.
That work also is around helping them have just some of those difficult conversations that I think post-pandemic happen more frequently, especially just, in the community with parents, with staff members. She's been working with Amador for quite a while and has been doing a great job with them. They came and did our kickoff. Her book partner came and did the kickoff keynote speaker for us as well.
Did anybody else have any questions?
I have a question. Section 3, in the background information, developing diverse, culturally relevant, and multilingual school library book collections. Do we currently have, and if so, how big are we planning? How big is it currently? That's interesting to know.
Mm-hmm. What I can say, since I was in the educational services department 7 years ago when we adopted Benchmark Advance, that adoption brought forth, that was our English language arts adoption, brought forth huge classroom libraries that have very much diverse, culturally relevant books for our teachers to use with our students. And so you can see there's no money allotted in there because a lot of our school sites already have those existing libraries.
In classrooms, those libraries?
They're classroom libraries, yes.
I would like to ask about number 4, operational costs, because I see the 2 band teachers listed there. But the operational costs seem to not be in proportion to the teacher's cost.
So the discretionary part of the discretionary block grant allows us to use this on facilities. So that's where we've set aside 1.4 million for facilities improvements that we desperately need and leading us toward consolidation.
So that's for facilities improvements?
Correct.
Is that specifically for art and music related facilities improvements?
It doesn't have to be.
So we're carving out over half of this grant for consolidation related costs?
Consolidation and just infrastructure in general. We have numerous HVAC needs and other things. So again, this was originally put together as the discretionary block grant, and then at the very end, it was enacted as the arts, music, and education discretionary block grant.
We also last year spent, Jared can give us a number, I don't know what the thousands of dollars is that we spent in those programs in the last year or two. And so it's, you pay for it then versus now, so it's a pass-through essentially when it comes to us using some of these funds that way.
And we have a significant portion of the LCAP dedicated to the arts as well. So remember, this is just focused on the discretionary block grant. So we still are, through the LCAP and other resources, putting a lot of money towards the arts.
Thank you, Mr. Critchfield.
You're welcome.
Does anybody have a follow-up questions? If there are no additional questions, I believe Mrs. Pichette is looking for a motion to approve.
I will move to approve item 14.2, art, music, and instructional materials discretionary block grant plan.
Thank you, Mrs. Parker. Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Roll call vote, Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Parker.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Marzano?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
I'm going to vote no. I have some reservation, and the reason for that is I have reservations about those operational costs being reserved for facilities like that. I would have liked more information about that, so that is a 4-1. And moving on to item 14.3, Varsity Brands Impact Program Contracts. Mr. Critchfield.
Yeah, so we separated this out as a 3-part agenda item. You're welcome as a board to approve all 3 contracts or any combination of those as we go through that. As we've dug into the naming and branding of a new high school and a new junior high school, Scott Hunkins, as District Athletic Director, has done a lot of this research and came back to us with an opportunity through a vendor that we already do a lot of our business with, and that's BSN Sports. And so through BSN, we were connected to another partner of theirs, which is Varsity Brands and their Impact Program. And through the Varsity Brands Impact Program, they will help guide us and do the work for the design and the logo and the trademarking of mascots and all of those things to ensure that we're in full compliance. But they also, this is what they do. So they've helped numerous schools open and find their branding. And so this is an opportunity where the financial commitment is unique, because you'll notice I don't have a dollar amount in there. It's a 5-year commitment to be a preferred partner with Varsity Brands, BSN, Varsity Spirit, Herf Jones, and VIP Branding. We already do business with pretty much all of these entities. BSN, an overwhelming majority of our athletic purchases already go through BSN, so this doesn't really change what we're already doing. But you can see, if you looked at the contracts, the value that comes through this commitment and the thousands and thousands of dollars we would pay to have a company do this work. And so that, a big emphasis on the high school and the junior high school with the branding, because those are, as we've talked about before, we're considering those new schools. We're combining two schools into one, but that creates a new school. And then for our elementaries, we added in that contract as well. Not that we're looking to change the mascots and names of our elementary schools. We have very little consistency at our elementary schools with the branding. Our parent groups are great and our schools are great, but it seems like every time they do a new t-shirt, the logo looks different or the mascot looks a little different, right? And so this would set up our elementary schools to go through a process to find not, like I said, not really change their name, but find a logo and a visual of the mascot that's consistent. And then in graphic design terms, we now have those trademark and set up where if they want to go get shirts made, they can send that to the shirt maker and have that consistency. It also opens up the door for our schools and our parent groups to operate less like a store where they have to bring in a bunch of inventory and then try to sell it, where there will be opportunities to say, okay, here's the new t-shirts for this year. Parents then go and buy them online and the t-shirts are delivered to their home. And then we get the parent group would still get a portion of the profits that way, but now they're not a t-shirt vendor. So there's some big advantages there. So that's kind of the overview of those three contracts. And of course, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Did anybody have questions about the contracts?
I just wanted to clarify that the contract, we're not paying out the contract. The contract is for us to use them exclusively in any of the products that we buy, kind of fulfill that contract.
Correct. And it's not necessarily exclusively, it's they have first right of refusal. So if we're looking for a product that they don't have, then obviously we can go elsewhere. Uniforms will be the biggest expense in this commitment. Because obviously with new schools will come new athletic uniforms, and so that will be a big part of that process.
Question I had was, as far as the design of logos, do any of our artistic students have the opportunity to possibly provide their drawings or designs for something like this?
Absolutely. We discussed that with them when they met, and they will come out, meet with students. We have a graphic design class at Amador High School, and so there will be an opportunity for student involvement in working with professional graphic designers to get the logos how we want them.
Are there any other questions? If not, we can have a motion to approve. And will one motion suffice for you for all three parts?
Yes, if it's called that way, absolutely.
I move that we approve the Varsity Brands Impact Program for the high school, junior high, and the elementary schools.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. For the roll call vote, Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano?
Is this company going to create what we give them based off of what the groups that we task to come up with names and all that stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question, James. So that
Or are they going to come up with whatever they think is best for us?
No, we get to decide on what our mascot and our logos look like in the end. But one area where they can help us is with trademarking and any sort of mascot or logo that could cause us issues.
Yeah,
We've seen that in professional
yeah.
sports, right, where teams have had to change their names
Right.
based on their mascot. And so it won't be that they're dictating, but once we go through that process that was laid out in what Tori presented, when we get down to 3 to 5, they will then do all the research for us to make sure we're not stumbling into something that we don't identify.
Right. Okay. Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Marzano. Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
I'm also a yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Critchfield. 14.4, Code Stack Special Education Information System Nightly Integration Contract. Mr. Critchfield.
Okay, I'm gonna do my best to, this is a lot of techie speak that we have a great technology director, Dan Hebert, and other people that do all of this. So long story short, we don't talk about this a lot. Normally when I refer to student attendance and budget, I just say, we take how everybody attends school, how often they go, and then that turns into our formulas for how much money we have. All that has to be verified by the state, right? You just don't tell the state, hey, this is how many kids we have, and they go, okay, and they send you your money, right? So that's called the CalPAD system, okay? When we report on CalPADs, it happens various times throughout the year. We have ARIES as our student information database that then uploads all of that data to CalPADs. But we also have SACE, which is another student information system. It houses all of the information on our students with disabilities that have IEPs. So currently what happens is SACE uploads information directly to CalPADs, ARIES uploads everything to CalPADs. Well, if a student has an IEP, they exist in both systems. They exist in ARIES and they exist in SACE. If there's an error in the data, we can only find out once it goes to CalPADs, unless someone went through every single kid manually, which just we don't have the manpower for. So what this does is have SACE and ARIES talk to each other so we can catch all of those errors and issues that might be in the data, so that and it could be as simple as the grade level's wrong. Like they could be a 10th grader and that's what's in ARIES, but then in SACE, someone accidentally keyed in an 11th grader, right? And so then it spits out an error in CalPADs. CalPADs used to allow you to submit all of the clean information and then work on the errors. Now, if you have one error, you can't submit any of your information. And so this will provide our special ed staff and Michelle Hansen, who's our student information specialist over ARIES, to work more closely together to make sure that those two systems are in sync before we even send anything to CalPADs. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
This is a very reasonable looking price tag compared to some of the software.
Yeah, not that I didn't want to take it to you, but if it were $351 cheaper, I wouldn't have to bring it to the board.
Okay.
So
I'm not
we have a
crazy.
$5,000
Right,
contract,
gotcha.
so.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, seeing as we have people looking at it, the less time that they have to go searching through all the stacks, it's going to
Absolutely.
save time so they can focus on other important things.
No doubt.
So I think it's a good idea.
You might end up saving money in the end.
I anticipate we will.
Yeah.
I move that we approve item 14.4, the Code Stack Special Education Information System Nightly Integration Contact.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Roll call vote. Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. And the
Thank you.
last discussion action item, because number 6 was removed from the agenda, we have Education Advanced, Inc., Cardonics contract. Also, Mr. Critchfield.
Yeah, sorry, I get a lot of me tonight. Okay, so this expenditure was approved in the discretionary block grant item that was approved tonight. So that's why this item is after the discretionary block grant. Master scheduling is an incredibly tedious process, and there are more elements than I probably want to elaborate on tonight when you consider at the secondary level that we have a AB 8-period block schedule. We have to take our roughly 2,000 secondary students at our junior highs and high schools and fit them all into 8 classes that hopefully they actually want to be in and that classes are appropriate for their level. And our schools do a great job in that. I do a lot of assisting in that process with master scheduling because for a couple of reasons. One, I know how to do it because I was a high school principal and I've built many master schedules. And two, if you don't build a good master schedule, it can cost you a lot more money. So I clearly have a vested interest in how we build our master schedules. And so this process, by using Cardonics, it will work directly with Aries to allow us to use technology in a better way to create more efficient master schedules. Right now, even though there's a lot of technology involved in a master schedule, we still use a magnet board as we're building a master schedule to say, this teacher will teach English second period, and then we use Aries at the same time to back check it. This would eliminate using a magnet board, and they're referring to it as a digital magnet board because anybody who's ever built a master schedule, when they hear that, go, oh, that sounds a lot better than an old school magnet board. We get a much better deal if we do a 3-year contract. One of my concerns is we are only a little over a year away from starting a process of building master schedules at a consolidated high school and a consolidated junior high. The process really starts in about October or November. It makes more sense to me to get Cardonics on board now so that this year we can build master schedules for Amador, Argonaut, Ione Junior, and Jackson Junior and get familiar with using this new system so that we are more comfortable with it, because then the following year we're gonna be building master schedules that we've never done before in this way. We're gonna have kids at 2 junior highs and 2 high schools that we're gonna have to register for classes at 1 high school. Then we're gonna have kids at 2 junior highs and 6 elementary schools that we then have to register for classes at 1 junior high. This is a great tool, technology, that's gonna help us not make mistakes and get it right when it comes to our staffing. And so we may not need this long-term, but getting through consolidation I think it poses a major advantage for us to do it this year as kind of our practice run pre-consolidation and then get into it for consolidation. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, I'll make a comment. I know in the past, when I was teaching in a department chair, at one time, we all sat down and took a whole day to make out the master schedule and then putting in things. And a lot of it is singleton classes, classes where you only offer one section of something, competing with something else. You could have AP English Lit and AP Physics offered during the same period, and the kids can't take the same, so you're having to move those around. And a program like this would be very beneficial to, okay, when the kids put in the information, it automatically does it, and another kid puts in the information, it rebalances it out, looking at things down the line.
Absolutely.
So I think it's very sound investment, and I agree with your recommendation of getting it on board beforehand, and it's something that we might want to continue down the line because it'll save a lot of time.
Yeah, the nice part is, if approved, it's a 3-year contract, so we can, 3 years from now, we can reassess and report out on how it's going and if it's something we think we need to continue using.
Are there any other questions or comments? If not, we can make a motion to approve.
I make a motion, we approve item 14.5, Educational Advanced Incorporated Cardonics contract.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. Roll call vote, Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Critchfield. Don't go anywhere, though. That does conclude our discussion action items, and we are to item 15, which is reports. Dr. Gibson, did you want to make a report?
I do. So yesterday, we met with all 4 bargaining units together, and we are creating a consolidation collective bargaining team that will consist of members from all 4 bargaining units in the district. The purpose of that is a lot of what we need to do is very much duplication among each unit. It was a great meeting. They're going to be very strategic who they put on that team. It may not, probably won't be the same people that sit in collective bargaining. And the main reason for that is we have just certain sites that are the most affected. That doesn't necessarily match our collective bargaining groups. So we're really excited about the opportunity just to really sit with all of them. And truly, it's going to be more of a collaboration than it is really a going through the nitty-gritty part of collective bargaining of what it normally is. The other reason that we wanted to do this is we don't want our normal collective bargaining time to get caught up in consolidation, because we have a lot of work on that side of the house that we want to get done as well. So I just want to say thank you to the all 4 of the union presidents and the staff members who attended yesterday. That's all I have for now, other than it was a great kickoff to the school year. Cabinet members were out at all sites. Today was our second day of official collaboration time across the district. Today was the first teacher-led day. Last week was the first district-led day. The survey results, I think all the board members saw the survey results that were emailed out to all staff. It was very positive, and we're really looking forward to really building that collaboration among our staff to get some crossover among grade levels, some articulation happening among different school sites, as well as our special education crossing over with our general education teachers.
I had a quick question, because you mentioned the early release Wednesdays
Yes.
for collaboration days. So we get on the weeks when there's a Monday holiday,
Yes.
then Wednesday is,
A normal school day.
right.
Yes.
What happens if it's a Friday holiday or a Thursday holiday?
Anytime it's a 4-day week.
Okay, so it's not just
Not
Monday.
just Mondays, yes. So if it's a 4-day week or less, then we do not have collaboration. We'll make sure that we really communicate that at the beginning of those weeks. And then that way parents will know.
Perfect. Yeah, I got my text about an hour before school got out today, and it was good because I'd forgotten.
Yes. And
So, Those
we
are
could have had,
very important.
we could have had collaboration for 20 years and parents still it's just the way,
Yes, I will forget every Wednesday, so don't stop.
Okay, good. That's good feedback.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Mr. Critchfield, you are on for board reports.
I am. So just real quick, the board typically likes to see this a few times throughout the year, like how many kids do we have, right? So I put in the board packet for you an enrollment comparison. I normally do a 4-year comparison. I did a 5-year comparison for very specific reasons. Not that we love going back in time and talking about COVID, but it is important to note where we were, what happened, and where we are now. And so I'm not going to go through it school by school, but if you look at that bottom line in orange, at the beginning of the school year of 2019, when nobody was talking about anything related to COVID-19, we had 4,140 students. And then you'll notice that next school year, we lost almost 300 students. But now when you look at where we are this school year, we have 41 more kids than we did back in 2019. The majority of school districts in the state still have fewer, and many have far fewer students than they did pre-pandemic. And so this is a positive update for us as a Foothill community, where we have recovered from the loss of students during the pandemic and are now exceeding the number of students throughout our district than what we had prior to the impacts of COVID-19. And if there's anything else that pops out on this, there's a lot more I could say, but I just wanted to provide you with the data and answer any questions.
So I was looking at the 2 high schools, and
Yeah.
historically, Amador had quite a few students more than over at Argonaut. But I see this year it's the closest that gap has ever been. Is there reasons for that? Have you looked at what's closing the gap?
Yes. Freshmen. The freshman class at Argonaut is significantly bigger than the freshman class at Amador. And a lot of that has to do with consolidation. We had a lot of families put in requests to say, hey, I want to be at Argonaut because that's going to be the high school for my kid when they finish out, and others. And so and you also have enrollment growth in the Ione and even in the Jackson areas, which is the Argonaut attendance area. And so we have a significantly larger freshman class. I mean, it's always a moving target. Last time I looked, I think Argonaut had about 185 freshmen. Amador had about 130 freshmen. And so that swing of 55 kids right there accounts for the majority of that change.
almost single-handedly. So we had that many transfers.
There weren't 55 transfers, but a portion of that was in the transfer. I don't have the transfer data in front of me, but I know that that was a piece of it, and then just the enrollment growth within the Argonaut area on top of that.
I guess that would go hand in hand with the large growth at IONL.
Correct.
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Okay, thank you. I have another item too. Do you want me to just jump into that?
Yes, please.
It's your
You want me to introduce you?
No, you don't need to. Please don't. Okay. We talk about the JPA a lot, and this is a document that I just provided for you that we put together for the Tuolumne Joint Powers Authority, just to give the board a little bit more information on what the role and responsibilities of the JPA entails. And so just as a quick overview, the JPA is basically pooled, we pool our risk together for risk management, for our risk control programs, and for insurance. And so this has been around since the early 1980s, I believe, and every school district and county office in Tuolumne, Calaveras, Amador, and Alpine counties are members of the Tuolumne JPA. Every single one. Not one district in that county has gone elsewhere. We joined together. I know for us in Alpine, it's pretty easy, right? We're both singles, but for Calaveras and Tuolumne, they're split up. And so we total nations belong, or school districts or county offices belong to the Tuolumne JPA. We count for 2 of those 23 because we count twice as a school district and a county office. And so as part of that process, we have a big say in what goes on. And so I'm the vice president of the JPA, and I'm also a member of the JPA committee. Our board meetings follow the Brown Act. If you could imagine a board meeting with 23 board members, it's significantly different than a board meeting with 5 members. So the role of the committee is to go through everything that's set to go to the board and provide preliminary votes on those and vet out what's going on so that when it goes to the board, things have been hashed out by the committee members. And so I'm one of the 8 committee members. And then for the board, because we're technically 2 organizations, Tori and I both attend the board meetings and vote on behalf of the county office and the school district. And so our executive director, Norma Wallace, is phenomenal and provides us with guidance and help in so many ways. They don't create rules. That's one of the misnomers about the JPA. They help us stay within all the other rules that we need to follow, and in the end, really save us a lot of money. And so it's a great process and to be involved in. I've been our representative for the JPA since I took this job, so I'm in year 7 now of being involved with the JPA, and Norma will help me with whatever we need, and it is really useful to go through that process as a committee member and a board member to help all of our schools stay in compliance when it comes to insurance and risk and everything else. There's a lot of no's that I have to give out in this process, but I'm currently working on bounce houses for one school, a potential helicopter landing at another school, and a couple of other things that are in the works that we really try to make happen, but we gotta make sure we're compliant when we do those things. Any questions?
Our schools?
Yeah.
A helicopter?
It might happen. I'm working on it. There's a few insurance snags we're working through.
Well, thank you, Mr. Critchfield.
You're welcome.
Didn't one already?
Yeah, we've done it before.
Yeah.
For every 15 minutes.
Every 15 minutes.
Absolutely.
Okay, that makes it not so weird. Board reports. Mr. Crow, did you have a report?
No, I don't. Thank you, though.
Mrs. Parker?
No report tonight.
Mr. Marzano?
No report.
Mr. Whitaker?
No report.
I will also make no report so that we can move along. Our next meeting, I have to look up the date every time. I'm sorry. Will be Wednesday, September 20th, tentatively scheduled to be held here at the Amador County Administration Building. Open session will hopefully start on time at 6:30 p.m. And with that, we are adjourned. It is 8:36. Would you like a quick break? Yes, Mr. Marzano would. We will be back. Do you guys want to start? With Mr. Marzano's permission, we will go ahead and start the county meeting. We're doing pretty good on time considering we went over for closed session today. Okay, so we're gonna call to order the meeting for the County Office of Education. It is 8:37. We actually do have all board members here. Dr. Gibson, do we have any deletions or corrections to the agenda? I believe we have one tiny one.
Yes, just one correction to the information-only personnel recommendations for the Director of State Preschools and the ELOP programs. That will be an interim position, and we will post an interview.
Thank you, Dr. Gibson. We do not have presentations and recognitions. We also do not have any of the representatives from SEEK or CSEA present tonight. Does anybody want to make public comment? I do not have any cards. We do not. So, consent agenda. Did anybody have questions on the consent agenda? No? Then would somebody please make a motion to approve?
I will move to approve item 8, consent agenda.
Thank you, Mrs. Parker. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. For the roll call vote, Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano has stepped out. Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. He's going to abstain. Mr. Marzano is going to abstain. Okay, we have no communications. And we have only one discussion action item, which is a companion piece. It is the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant. Mrs. Pichette.
The beauty of being a single is that when we apply for grants, we can get them both on the Unified School District side as well as the county office side, and that's what you see here. So same background information as on the district side that I presented. However, you can see that the amount is considerably less at $21,700. So I'm happy to entertain any questions from the board.
Anybody? No? Okay, then if there are no questions, we need a motion and a second.
I move to approve item 10.1, the Art, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Parker and Mr. Whitaker. For the roll call vote, Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano?
Aye.
And Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
I'm also a yes.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you. Information only. We have the current personnel recommendations. Did anybody have questions or comments? No? Okay. Did anybody wish to make an additional report? Mr. Critchfield? No? Okay.
No.
Dr. Gibson?
Mr. Critchfield, for sure, no. No, I don't.
Anybody else? Last call. Okay. Our next meeting is still Wednesday, September 20th, tentatively scheduled to be held here at the Amador County Administration Building. Open session will start immediately following the ACUSD meeting. We are adjourned, and it is 8:41.